It is 10 best bosses in games. Let's keep this intro short. This video is part 1 because there are too many cool bosses in games. And feel free to write your favorite bosses in the comment section. But before we begin, I must warn you that yes, there will be a lot of bosses from Souls games. But not only, so stay tuned anyway. The video has time codes so you can fast forward to avoid spoilers. I will announce the game first so you won't be spoiled on accident. Now let's begin. And let's begin with the game Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree DLC to be precise. And we will talk about Rolana, the Twin Moon Knight, the horny aunt that loves her nephew a little too much. But enough about lore. Besides being a loving aunt, there isn't much to tell. She is an optional boss, but it would be a crime not to fight her. First, she's an ore farmer. Sadly enough, she doesn't have a cutscene, but she uses 2 swords at once. One that represents her Carian bloodline for long-range magic, and the second one with Mesmer's flames for short-range magic. Her moves are very elegant and flashy, like a dance. She is not too strong, but also not too easy either. In my opinion, a perfect balance. And also in my opinion, she has, aside from the main theme of the game, the best soundtrack in the game. Number 2 from the game Devil May Cry 5, Mission 19, and the boss is the Alpha and Omega, that is Virgil. The Battle of Brothers, Dante vs Virgil. They fought many times throughout the game series, and to be honest, this fight against Virgil is not the hardest in the series. The hardest one is in the Mission 20 in Devil May Cry 3, but the one in DMC5 I think is the most fun one. As his primary weapon, Virgil uses Yamato, his katana. With it, he not only fights but also can deflect bullets and can cut things without actually touching it with a sword, at a distance. Also, he uses phantom blades as his ranged weapons. And finally, Virgil is an ore farmer, and not just for fun. Ore farming is an actual gameplay mechanic in the game. While playing as Virgil, you have the concentration gauge. The more concentration you have, the more damage you do, and the longer is the range of your attacks. But you lose concentration if you take damage, or by just running during combat. So again, for Virgil, ore farming is not just cosmetic, but also a legitimate mechanic in the game. So during the fight, he is calmly walking, rather than running around. No, that would be too uncool. However, it doesn't mean that Virgil is slow. On the contrary, by using his Dark Slayer style, he can teleport right next to you and start cutting. Also, he has the ability to create a demonic doppelganger with his Devil Trigger ability. And in DMC5, of course, he got also the Sin Devil Trigger. Also, Virgil is the owner of one of the most iconic moves, Judgment Cut End. It is a move where Virgil moves extremely fast, cutting space-time and everything inside within a certain area. Then he gets back in his initial position, and by putting his katana back in the sheath, he resumes time and ends the move. To conclude it all, 1. Virgil acts cool and has cool moves. 2. The reason why this fight is cool is because unlike in regular boss fights like in Souls games, where you are the prey, the boss is the predator and you fight against a stronger opponent, Virgil vs Dante is a duel between equals, which is extremely rare for boss fights. Number 3 will be from a recent game, Play Obscure Expedition 33. Since it is a recent game, beware of spoilers. This boss is story related. If you want to avoid them, you can do that. Just use the time codes. Now, I'm talking about the super boss Claire, or rather painted Claire. And I mean regular Claire, not the DLC Claire. She's a very tragic character, like all the painted Desandra family. She was kidnapped by the real-world Claire, repainted by real Claire. Then she was stripped of free will and forced to paint Nevrons to prevent Chroma from being returned to Aline. Because she paints Nevrons, she is a summoner. She attacks using her Nevrons. Also, every couple of turns she heals by 500,000 HP. So this boss is a build check boss. It is a challenge to your build and your ability to deal a lot of damage. Otherwise, you won't beat her. And of course, as with every soundtrack in Expedition 33, the Claire soundtrack is exceptionally good. Number 4 will be from the game Cyberpunk 2077, a boss from the ending of the game. And you probably already know that I'm talking about Adam Smasher. But in my opinion, it deserves to be among the best fights only while playing the Don't Fear the Reaper ending. That ending is different from the other endings by the fact that in that ending you are fighting solo. Your health decreases gradually throughout the whole mission, so the clock is slowly ticking. And also there's no one there to take out a quarter of his HP at the beginning of the fight. In general, this fight was pretty fun. It is actually pretty rare that a boss fight in shooters is fun, but this one was. He has some cool movesets. And it also felt nice killing him finally as a revenge for Johnny, David and Rebecca. Now before we move on, I want to ask you to leave a like, subscribe and ring the notification bell. I'm doing this video as a little rest after the last video that was a little hard to make, about the legacy of France in the video game industry. You can check it out. Also, I make a lot of analytic videos, sometimes critique videos, or even more entertaining videos like this one, with different tops. So subscribe now to not lose it. And let's move on. Number 5 from the game Sekiro Shadow died twice, and it is Lady Butterfly, a really cool early boss, completely optional. The area she's located in is actually accessible through praying at the Buddha statue, and it is basically a memory of how the wolf, also known as Sekiro, protected Lord Kuro in the past. As the last boss in this memory, you encounter Lady Butterfly for the first time. However, it is not the first time Wolf encounters Lady Butterfly. She was actually one of Wolf's masters, meaning she taught Wolf to fight. And when you defeat her, she says, "You've gotten stronger, Wolf." Now, don't let her old age deceive you. She is fast, and she will kick your ass if you're not good enough. Though she is not super strong, she provides enough opportunities for attacks, and this fight also feels more like a duel than a prey-predator play. Overall, a nice fight between the master and the apprentice. Number 6 is from the game Hollow Knight, the first game, and it is Hornet. Yes, the one that is the MC of Silksong. In the first game, she's actually a boss in the game, and technically a half-sister. She's a ridiculously easy boss compared to even easy bosses in Silksong. Just look at that gameplay and compare it to any boss in Silksong. But overall, her moveset is nice. Also, again, fighting her feels like a duel between equals. She doesn't spawn 100 minions. She doesn't do crazy AoE attacks with only 3 pixels of safe space. And there is no arena with 100 NPCs that you have to beat before fighting her. Just honorable fights, the purpose of which are actually to test us. And also her OST is really good. Number 7. Again from the game Elden Ring. Again from the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. And we're talking about Mesmer. Yes, the guy with the loving aunt. He's a child of Queen Marika, a demigod infected with the Abyssal Serpent, the outer god that challenges the Golden Order. That's why his mother feared him and abandoned him, even though Mesmer was eternally loyal to her. In this top, he's because of his cool moveset. I've seen some people say that he's a very hard boss, but I think he's of a right hardness, defeated for one of the final bosses in the game. I personally had a lot of fun fighting Mesmer. Number 8, again from Clear Obscure Expedition 33, and it is the super boss Simon. Again, as with Claire, I mean the regular version of the boss, not the DLC one. But even regular Simon is an extremely challenging boss. You know how often people describe bosses in Souls games as hard but fair? Well, Simon was made to be a challenging boss. He was not made to be fair, which makes him a boss that not a lot of people beat. Like for example, one of his unfair moves is to make you 1 HP. It doesn't matter how much HP you had, and it's not something that can be dodged or parried. Also, he doesn't do it as a turn, he's doing that between the turns. And then he lashes out a 15-hit attack on you, and if you didn't dodge or parry them all perfectly, you are dead. And if a character dies, Simon permanently erases them, so they can't be resurrected with items. Also, for example, he steals your shields, so if you had a shield build before fighting him, you better deactivate them, because when he steals them, he acquires them, so it is more of a problem for you than him. And finally, when he reaches 30% HP, he enters in his third phase. And when he does, he immediately erases all the party members, no matter how much HP you had, and it cannot be dodged or parried. You are just dead because Simon says so. And of course, in his third phase his moveset also changes, and he becomes even more challenging. So yeah, Simon is a cool and challenging boss, but he cannot be described as a fair boss. Simon was a member of Expedition Zero and a friend of Verso. As painted Clay, Simon is a very tragic character. They were actually a couple, and the real Clay took advantage of that and posed as the painted Clay. Then real Clay gave him powers and used him, and unfortunately all of that stuff really messed up his sanity. Now also, if you happen to be a fan of Attack on Titan, the cutscene between Phase 1 and 2 is pure cinema and aura farming. Now, even though everyone hearing this basically consented to be spoiled, I won't spoil it anyway. Knowing that it is pure cinema is enough. And of course the Simon OST is lit. Number 9 is from the game Hollow Knight Silksong. And the boss, or rather the boss fight, is the second fight versus Lace. And yes, I know that there's a third fight. And even though I beat Lost Lace, I didn't enjoy it. Look, I'm not the best gamer around, but I did beat every hard boss you can think of, including pre-nerfed Consort Radahn, solo no summons, mimics, etc. And for me, Lost Lace was the hardest boss fight I had. Well, at the time at least. I think the new DLC bosses from Expedition 33 are now the hardest. But we're getting off topic. The second Lace fight is one of the most fun fights I ever had. Not only it is a dual type fight, but it is also very fast and instinctive fight. I bet for an unaware person it would be even hard to tell who is the boss and who is the player right away. I even reloaded the fight a couple of times just to replay it. And also, in my opinion, she has the best OST in the game. Number 10, again from the game Sekiro Shadow Die Twice, and is the final boss of the game. That is Isshin the Saint Sword. And is the best designed boss fight, like ever. If you want to know more, I've made a separate video on Sekiro as a game in general, and there I discuss Isshin a lot. The video is called Sekiro After 6 Years. But if I'm to be short, the whole brilliancy of Sekiro gameplay and Isshin in particular is in the very low gameplay variety. In Sekiro, unlike in other From Software games, you don't have weapon variety. And it might seem to be a disadvantage of the game. But actually that allowed From Software to polish the compatibility of your moveset and NPC's movesets. And especially polished is the Isshin fight. Imagine the most smooth anime battle choreography, and it is basically the Isshin fight. I mean, there are some good cinematic fights in gaming, for example in Final Fantasy XV, but that's just a bunch of slick cutscenes meshed together in a sneaky way, so that the gameplay would appear smooth. But in Sekiro it is all in-engine real-time combat. It's probably the best polished action gameplay in gaming. Now, enough about that. Isshin is one of the hardest boss fights of all time, and this precisely because you don't really have builds in the game. There's only one gameplay strategy that works: to be aggressive. Every time Isshin kills you, he says, "Hesitation is defeat." It is basically a hint from him on how to defeat him. I didn't understand that 7 years ago, and that's why I kept dying. You should not hesitate to strike or parry, and this is the formula of winning. That is aggressive playstyle. Now, that aside, this boss fight has but one thing that I didn't like. It is the first phase of the fight. You have to beat Isshin's grandson first, and only after you beat him the grandpa emerges from within the grandson's body, and then you have 3 more phases. Yes, the total fight has 4 phases, and I just think that the first phase is unnecessary and uninteresting. It should have been a cutscene, it is just a waste of time. Now, in the end, even though this video is not a top, but rather a list of boss fights because I intend to do at least part 2 of this video, but overall I think Isshin the Saint Sword is top 1 the best designed boss in gaming. You can say what your top 1 is in the comment section, or you can write an entire top if you like. But don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out my other videos. Be it entertaining videos like this one, analytic videos, critique videos, I have everything you need. So subscribe now to not lose it. See you there. By the way, in some places it is still Christmas, so Merry Christmas, guys.